Recorded.
Hello, ladies. So I wanted to once again go over. I wanted you to see how the sperm, this how the Y chromosome is not human. Okay, how the Y chromosome is not human. This is actually a bacteriophage right here. Okay, this here is a bacteriophage, and as you can see, it has the head, it has the something in the middle, right? And the legs, right? It looks like a sperm, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like a sperm? Doesn't it look like a sperm? Could you tell that this is not a sperm? Look at that. And here is a picture of the sperm as it was being made. Picture of the sperm as it was being made. Look at that. So it goes from here. This is actually a normal cell right here. This is a normal cell on the left. You see, it takes itself from being a normal cell, which it would have gotten from the human cells, right? Because remember, it's starting from a human cell, but it only looks human because it hijacked the human that was developing. So therefore, it has human cells. Yeah. So it takes itself from this human cell and does all of these steps to get to this in order for it to get to this. See that? Do you see the middle here? See that? You see how it resembles that bacteriophage? So a bacteriophage is a virus that specifically targets bacteria. That's why it's called a bacteriophage. And that means that, I mean, you can hear the bacteria part of it, right? But a phage means something that basically that eats or destroys, right? Eats or destroys the, whatever, the prefix, right? Which is a bacteriophage eats bacteria, basically. Yeah. So it takes
So you can
itself
think that
from
sperm.
this to this. Look at this right here. And then the final destination is it right here. Right? And I just thought that was really, really poignant. I thought that was really, really poignant, right? Because if you are trying to get into a cell that is going to eventually look like this, right? The cell that it's trying to merge with is going to look like this. Why wouldn't it just go like this? Why wouldn't it go like this? Why wouldn't it go and present itself to the cell like this? And the answer is because it has to invade the cell, which means it has to what? Brute force its way in. So this is not going to work because it is brute forcing its way in. Exactly like what the bacteriophage is doing. And you have to understand something. Because this one is it because it stops because of the system that was put in place to stop women from being able to have their own children. And now you have to go to the male to get his DNA, to get your DNA from him to complete your reproduction process. He now has a chance that gives him the window to pass you his genes as well. The simple, the simple existence of now having to get DNA from them, right? Means that they now have the opportunity to pass you their DNA as well. So the entire thing about, oh no, these males are human. No, they are not. This whole, no, they were made with us. No. This is like hold on a second. This is like when you grow your own plants, right? When you grow your own plants, you know what's in it. But when you buy processed food, they now can they can pass you poison. Can pass you poison, which you would then need help. You would then need them further to help you with. That's exactly what is happening. The entire design of, oh no, they made the males with us. We need males to reproduce. That is BS. The only reason you are able to reproduce them is because you have to get your genes from them now. Because they hobbled you from moving ahead with yours, with your actual genes that you already have. You now have to go get a copy of your own genes, of your own human genes, not a copy of your own actual genes, but a copy of your own human genes from them, which gives them the opportunity to pass you their own. They were not made with us. They were not made with us. If they were made with us, if they were made with us, we will see provisions inside us for them that doesn't hobble us. You understand that? That does not hobble us. Every single provision hobbles us. And then I want you to watch this. I want you to watch this, okay? My goodness. God, it's coming up right now. Coming up right now. I want you to watch this. Goodness. So that is a bacterial cell that is being attacked by this bacteriophage, okay? Okay, so let's go back to this. So I want you to see how particularly nasty this thing is, right? I want you to see how particularly nasty this thing is. And there are three things that I want you to take away from that, which is one, how nasty it is. Yeah. Doesn't that seem reminiscent of how nasty males are? Doesn't that seem reminiscent to you? How nasty they are, right? Second is look at the quickness of the proliferation. Yeah? Doesn't that reflect to you again how males proliferate people? We have 8 billion people on the damn planet. Like when you think about, the women who have children, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. When you think about, women who have children back to back to back, right? Does it not seem like this? It just continues going. It just continues going. No matter what the cost is, it just continues to go. It just continues to go. Right? I have read somewhere that back in the like as even as late as the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 60s, right? That some women were being made to have 30 kids. 30 kids. Now, if you are a woman, that should terrify you. 30 kids. That is what this is. That's what that's going to do to you. That will eventually break you whether you like it or not. Right? And here's one other thing. The third thing that I want you to notice here. Right? Something that I find very, very particularly poignant because I have been saying this. And I have been saying this because I had concluded this based on all the other evidence. And the reason I conclude them is that these are inevitable based on the evidence. Okay? They are inevitable based on the evidence. That is how I am able to make these conclusions. That if you push a domino, if you push the first button in the series of events, you will eventually get the same result every time, right? That is how I am able to make these conclusions. And here it is. Okay? When I tell you that the men, the reason they want to attach to you is that they want to duplicate the invasion process. They want to duplicate the 24/7 invasion process that happens when they are in the virus form. Yeah, when they are in their virus form. This is what I'm talking about. Because this thing has already injected its genes into this bacterium. Look at it. Already injected its genes. Yeah? So why isn't it going away? It's just standing there. Like it's trying to make sure it kills the thing. Like it is attached to it and not moving. That they are trying to duplicate the 24/7 the 24/7 the 24/7 attachment thing that happens when a bacteria invades an organism. I have never seen this before I made that prediction. Why isn't this thing going away? It's literally waiting for this thing to destroy. Like it attached to this thing until it destroyed. Oh my God, that makes me so emotional. It attached to it until it destroyed. exactly like they attach to you until you destroy. This is crazy. It's crazy. And the other thing is, you see this thing, right? It's moving with its legs. And it's likely using the mito. It's likely using, there is likely an ATP mitochondrial action that is going on in this tail over here. There's likely mitochondrial ATP something happening right here in that tail that enables it to move. Because it's about that movement is a biological process and it requires energy to conduct it. Exactly like sperm. Okay? Exactly like sperm. To show you that again, let's go back to the sperm. Right here. Mitochondria. What did it say that? Right? These are the mitochondria that then become the tail that provides it energy. Right here. See that? I mean, this is nasty. This is what I think they are an origin of. Yes, this is what I think males are an origin of. Yes. That's the of all. Here is something else, right? In order for this invasion to happen, right? In order for this to happen, for that to happen, there has to be there has to be a breaking of the barrier of the cell wall of the bacterium. Do you understand? For this to happen, for this injection, this invasion to occur, there has to be a mechanism that dissolves the cell wall of the bacterium. We're actually going to look at that next because this is exactly here. That is exactly what this is for. The acrosome here, the acrosome here. That's exactly what that is for, to dissolve the cell wall of the egg. But here's the thing though. When you look at how cells cells of an organism transport things across it, how they obtain the things that they need for a biological process, which fertilization is. It's a biological process, right? It is a biological process that starts another process, which is embryogenesis, right? Embryogenesis is the making of the baby, the actual process that involves the assembling of the baby, right? So now the way cells obtain the things that they need to accomplish their biological processes, and those things include, how do I say this? oxygen, water, mm, food molecules, yeah, glucose. The way they do that, right? They have a predefined ways of doing those things. There is diffusion where water and molecules that are small enough just come in. They just come into the cell wall. And the reason they can come in is because they are so badly needed and they are small enough, right? They are small enough because in the way cells evolved, cell walls, right? They determine that what is good for them and what is not good for them. And so they determine that the things that are good for them are small enough to, to be able to be allowed to come in through that fusion, which is that, they just go in from wherever there's a high concentration of them into a low concentration of them, right? So, so that means that for water, for instance, there will be, when you drink water, right? The water from your stomach, they simply diffuse across your cells, across your digestive, your digestive, your stomach into your bloodstream, because the cell walls of your stomach, because the water molecules are small enough to diffuse across the walls of your stomach, right? Yes. So, and then the same way in when your pee accumulates, right? They diffuse across the kidneys. Hmm? So, and then there are molecules that are not water, but they too, excuse me, not molecules, but like usually elements. I mean, they can be molecules too, but usually elements too. So they're small enough to pass across with diffusion, exactly like that. They will simply just pass through. And then there are molecules that are too big because in the evolution of cells determine that they are too big, that they are cells that are or molecules or things that are certain size are too dangerous, and they kind of need to be filtered out so that the cell knows what is coming into it. And but those ones, right? Those but the things that the cell, okay, so let me say that again. So there are going to be like many things, many molecules, many elements, right? That are too big, right? But that means that you don't need all those things that are too big. You need certain ones of them. So the ones that you need of everything that could come into a cell that are too big, right? You need only certain things, a small portion of them. So you would make an allocation for them to be able to come into the cell, right? And usually the allocation of those things, what are, you either have a channel, whereas you have a protein on the surface of the cell. When if you need a lot of things, if you need like, let's say salt, for instance, right? Salt, for instance, if you need salt, if you have a process that is dependent on salt molecules, right? You would have a channel across the cell wall, right? That would just open up, and the salt would rush in. The salt would rush in, right? Or you would have a mechanism by which there, again, another protein on the cell wall that would have like that would work like kind of like a hand that reaches both the outside and the inside of the cell wall, so that it would take the hand and go and pick up the molecule and deliver it into the inside of the cell, right? Those are the provisions that were made for cells to receive what they need, right? And there is an egg, and the reproductive system, right, that they have set up right now is a system by which the egg supposedly is getting genes from the sperm. Okay, it's a system by which the egg is getting genes from the sperm, which means it should have a such a provision. Now, the reason you use the hand method, right? The hand method is because the thing that you need is not a lot of it. You use the channel method when you need a lot of molecules, right? And you don't want to, and it's not going to be efficient for you to have a bunch of a bunch of, hand-like devices on on your cell. That means that it would make your cell, very your cell wall ineffective, right? Really. So that's why you have a channel where you kind of just open the channel and they kind of just rush in. Yeah? And because there is only like a packaged set of genes, right? The genes are packaged, right? That is being delivered to the egg. It should have a provision like that, right? It should have a provision like that in order to get to the cell. But this design is telling me that, but the dissolution, the dissolving process, right, is telling me that it is dissolving, that it is a brute force mechanism. And if it is something that was from your own biology, it would not need to brute force its way in. It would not need to brute force its way in. That means it is not part of our biological design. Because again, in my previous video, what I said was something that is from your own biology, that self-evolves from your biology, would have a provision. This is what is called your biology, right? Your biology, it would self-evolve, and the way it would evolve would be to not be a brute force method. It would not be a brute force mechanism. By having to dissolve the cell wall, that is a brute force mechanism, exactly as how this bacteriophage is doing. Exactly as how this bacteriophage is doing. This is a brute force. Now you might think, that because the thing that it's inserting there looks like a needle, right? It doesn't actually work that way. That it just punctures it, yeah. What happens is it has a mechanism to dissolve the molecules on the cell wall, the molecules that assemble together to make up the cell wall. It has a way to dissolve them. It's not just puncturing its way in. I mean, it's kind of doing that, but not in the way that a pin, happens, right? The way a mosquito punctures you is that it just pushes its way in with a needle, right? That's not what's happening. It's dissolving. It's dissolving these, the, you know, molecules that make up the cell wall. So, and now let's look at how a sperm fertilizes an egg. Let's look at that because I want to show you something else. I want to show you something else. I'm starving. Because there is something that you need to see. So here is what I want you to see right here. Right? So we've, I don't know if you heard this, but, you know, how the egg, how the sperm was penetrating the egg, but that's not what is important here, okay?
Reaction spreads outward. Material spreads out in a pellucida. Meanwhile, inside the egg, the tightly packed male genetic...
Okay, what do you see? What do you see inside the egg? Do you see the tail of the sperm? Do you see the tail of the sperm? No, you don't. So the only thing it did was to inject the DNA into the egg, exactly like the bacteriophage. So it's injecting its DNA into the egg, just the DNA. So it's carrying just the DNA. It's not two cells merging like they would have you believe. This is something that is invading with its own genes. This is exactly how the bacteriophage was working. It's delivering its genes into the egg. Now, the only reason they are even different, right? Why the making of why the injecting of the genes? Why the injecting of the genes of the of the sperm, right? Doesn't kill the egg like the bacteriophage does. Yeah, it's because in this organism that is human and all the other mammalian organisms, right? When you do that, you do not make another one of these males. When you kill the egg. Now, the difference between the viruses and this, right, is because of the mechanism of how they reproduce, how the reproduction happens. You understand that? The only reason it's not killing the egg is because otherwise it cannot make itself. If it could make itself, that's exactly what it would do. The only reason it is not killing off the egg is because it then cannot make itself. Because the egg, because the egg is a type of organism, it's a type of cell that doesn't mitosis. Because the egg has a different mechanism of its reproduction, of its cell cycle. Because the egg has a different mechanism of its cell cycle. That's why it doesn't do it this way. That's why it doesn't kill the egg. So anyway, I am going to end it there. Because my goodness, I mean, I could go all day. I could go all day. Thank you again. If you have any questions, if you need me to clarify anything, please put them in the comments and let's get this discussion going, because it is important that we all get this. It is so badly important that we get it.